was concerts. I remember I attended a concert once with a friend, Marcel Grossman, and how I embarrassed him. That night, the orchestra was playing Stravinsky, but all through the performance, being completely unaware, I kept humming something by Mozart. Oh, but you see, my friends, I was working on a very difficult mathematical equation, and Mozart is just so much better for my thinking. Had I known that within a few years the Nazis would ban all of Stravinsky's compositions, I assure you I would have paid closer attention. Hitler. His mad vision was revealed by the early 30s. That is when the world should have opposed him. My scientific theories, accepted the world over, were suddenly attacked in Germany as subversive Jewish propaganda. The bankruptcy of the relativity theory, Einstein, his deceptive conclusions and frauds. That is what they wrote about me. Well, not just me, but by 1932 all Jews were under attack. And yet it is sometimes said that I treat the Germans too harshly. Oh, Albert, now that the war is over, we should be more forgiving. No. It is impossible, unthinkable to forgive genocide. I had hoped that the ends of the war would bring justice and peace. But instead it has brought tragedy. With the atomic bomb, the most savage and revolutionary force was born since primitive man discovered fire. My name is sometimes linked to this terrible weapon. While some of my early discoveries contributed to the splitting of the atom, how could I, at that time, anticipate the perversion of my theories by others? A knife in the hands of a surgeon can be a life-giving instrument, or it can be used to kill. Who can control this? My son Edward, when he was small. Do you know what I was just thinking? How good an ice cream cone would taste right now. Used to be one of our great delights to go out for ice cream together. I would also go with my other son, Hans, for ice cream, but Edward and I, we shared such a passion for it. Edward, where are you? It's time to go. Oh, you are wearing the new shirt I gave you. Oh, it looks very good. Edward, listen, why don't we go for pastry today instead of ice cream, just for a change? Oh, no, don't cry. No, don't cry. Papa was only joking. Yes, it was a bad joke. Yes. Of course, we will go for ice cream, just as always. Go. What delicious times we had together. But Edward outgrew ice cream, whereas I, as you can see, did not. My family. Perhaps if I had more time for them, things would have been different. It is an area of my life which I regret. But you see, I am driven, constantly driven to work. Even when I was courting my first wife, Mileva, much of our time was spent talking about science. We met in college, where she was also a physics student. I would discuss most of my early theories with her when no one else would listen. My love letters. Sometimes my love letters included such romantic subjects as parallelism, the kinetic energy of molecules, or Boltzmann's theory of gases. Oh, Mileva. Mileva and I shared so many thoughts together. But later, when she had to share the life of the most famous scientist in the world, when her name became only Albert Einstein's wife or the little Frau, this made things very difficult. We began to fight over nothing. And we grew further apart, day by day. And I saw nothing of this. Nothing. There is a saying by Schopenhauer that a man can surely do what he wills to do, but he cannot determine what he wills. I believe this to be true. So since I knew that you would be here this evening, I wrote down a rather simple example illustrating the theory of relativity. Yes, I have this is. In the temple of science are many mansions, and no, that's not nice. That's the strong bit. Yes, I have it here someplace. Yes. And I can't seem to find it, but I think I can do without it. Yes. The storm. Huh? Yes, the storm. The storm will do perfectly. Imagine that you are standing in the middle of a soccer field during an electrical storm. Suppose that lightning strikes both goals on either end of the field at approximately the same time. To you, these flashes would appear to be simultaneous. But suppose that next to the field ran a railroad track and a train was passing by at that very moment. A man looking out the window also saw the two flashes, but he was nearer to one goal and in a moving vehicle. So he would not see the two flashes at the same time. He would see one before the other. We are on a planet which is constantly spinning on its axis. At the same time, it is moving about the sun, and also at the same time, the entire solar system is moving. Therefore, any measurement of phenomena must be relative to this motion. And so, measurements will vary according to the ordinates and coordinates selected. The classical Newtonian theory is refuted. I will show you. According to Newton, the lines of force which emanate from infinity and terminate in the mass m are proportional to the mass m. If, on the average, the mass density P0 is constant throughout the universe, then a sphere of volume V will enclose the average mass. For unit area of the surface of the sphere, the lines of force which enter the sphere are thus proportional to P0VF or P0R. Hence, the intensity of the field at the surface would ultimately become infinite with increasing radius of the sphere. which is impossible. Have you got that? I see that I'm getting the usual puzzled looks. Oh. That is perfectly all right. Find a place for this in your offices, and perhaps we will come back to it later. You see, what is most important to me is not the achieving of correct solutions to problems, but the effort made to solve these problems. The search for truth is always more important than its possession. I've always enjoyed the story of the little dog who finds the tip of a bone sticking up out of the ground. He dug furiously into the earth and found another bone, and then another, and then another, then another, then another, and then until finally he had unearthed the entire skeleton of a dinosaur. And then he died. But in total ecstasy. You see, we must all strive to work for our full potential or beyond it, if possible. To make a goal of happiness in one's life. It's never appealed to me. Oh, a good pipe is so satisfying. But my doctors warned me about smoking too much. He even made me promise to buy no more tobacco. I gave him my word. So, I've made arrangements to steal it from my friends instead. So, do you think you understand relativity now? It is said that there are only 6 men in the entire world who truly understand it. And I am not one of them. I am not one of them. I understand it. Much of my early scientific theorizing was done while I was a clerk in the Swiss patent office in Zurich. It's very tedious work, not very exciting. But since I could not get a university teaching position at the time, it served its purpose. I began there in 1902 and stayed until 1909. 6 years. 6 years as a clerk in... Oh, no, excuse me. Excuse me, sorry, it's 7 years. 7. Yes. Mathematics is not my best subject. I would sit at a desk and I would check out the technical details of patent applications submitted. Of course, I would also do my own work there when things got slow. I still remember Herr Haller, my supervisor, waving his finger at me. Einstein! What are these scientific papers doing in the patent office? This is not a laboratory. You are here to work on patent applications submitted. Do you understand? Oh, Albert, your work is good, but you lack discipline. You daydream too much. You must learn to concentrate. Now put these papers away and get back to work. Well, the scientific papers he had me put away laid the entire foundation for the theory of relativity. It was through the publication of my work, while a patent clerk in Zurich, that I created my international reputation. I was living in a small apartment in Switzerland with my wife and my 2 boys. Yeah, every spare moment you could find me there, rocking a cradle and burping a baby with one hand and writing scientific papers with the other. It isn't time for anything else. Finally, I was given the opportunity to teach at several universities over the next few years. And then I was appointed to head the physics department at the newly formed Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Berlin. Great honor for a simple, absent-minded Jew. So it was that The beginning of World War I found me back in Germany with mixed emotions. Being a devout pacifist at the time, I would rather have been shot than participate in a war. But my feelings were not shared by the average European. There was this mad rush to enlist and join in the fighting. A man who actually enjoys marching to the strains of a military band, he received his brain by mistake. The spinal cord alone would have been sufficient. I wrote a letter that quoted a manifesto while I was at the University of Berlin. I wanted to garner attention from my fellow professors in opposition to the war. Do you know that only 4 professors signed this letter? It received only 4 signatures. Only 4 men out of thousands had the daring to risk their reputation for peace. And World War I finally ended. Over a third of the young men of Europe had been killed. I love electrical storms. The forces of nature coming together. Oh, I'll tell you an example of relativity. Suppose a man is standing in the middle of a soccer field during an electrical storm. And, but I've already told you this one. Oh, excuse me. Phil, another example of relativity. A teacup full of tea. The tea leaves rest at the bottom of the cup. But you take a spoon and begin to stir the tea, and the leaves begin to rise. The faster you stir, the higher the leaves rise in the liquid. The position of the tea leaves is relative to the motion imparted on the liquid. That was a good one. So, in 1918, the war finally ended. By this time, the Annales de Physique, a scientific journal of some importance, had already published several of my articles, including the foundation of the general theory of relativity. Scientifically, I was working at a fever pitch. Years of searching in the dark for a truth that one can feel but cannot express. The constant, intense passion that fluctuated between confidence and despair. The constant struggle for proof, when every proof led you to an even greater rhythm. Over time, by now, I was known to all the scientists throughout Europe. At the dinner parties, meetings, scientific conclaves,